Welcome back to the Backside Potty. This week we have a very special guest, Phil Anderson, joining us.
2 gin and tonics, 2 vodkas, and a scotch.
Yes?
500 watts, please.
Now, let's introduce you to the Backsiders. Freebs.
G'day.
Shreds.
Hey.
Jim Bob.
Yeah.
Myself, Sean, and Phil. How you doing, mate?
Yes, hi to everybody. It's great to be with some friends here.
Well, it's great to have you, mate. We're all pretty pumped up. We've been busily getting ready for this, so hopefully we can deliver a really good podcast for all the listeners.
Yep, absolutely. Now, we'll do a quick debrief of our weeks, Phil.
Each week when we start the podcast, we always do a quick 60 seconds around the ground. What have you been doing on your bike or other things in your life? So,
Freebs, what's been happening?
Well, mate, in my life, off the back of the Nationals, obviously, so just a bit of a come-down week, which has been nice just to have a little sleep in here and there. But I did get on the bike a fair bit, and most importantly, on the weekend, I pulled the mountain bike out and managed to hit the trails with the rain on Saturday. And
kept it upright?
Not once did I drop it, but Lukey D in his wisdom did happen to pull it over a couple of times.
Oh, yeah, standard
Lukey.
Rookie.
Also got well lubricated at the grand final party, and me and Johnny Carr, we tucked into plenty of beers, some discos, and then a couple of Magnums of red as well. So that was a solid Saturday session, and the Lions got up.
A couple of Magnums.
Yep.
Good grief.
And then I decided to get up early and race the Hamo Crit on.
Backed it up
on Sunday, as you shouldn't you, Phil? And got the liver going, and I thought I was animating the race where I could, and enjoyed the big crit 52 starters on the start line.
Yeah, it was good. Racing's back, isn't it?
Spicy.
Yeah, racing's back in Brizzy. How'd you go, Shreds?
Oh, I had a full green week in Training Peaks.
That's what we strive for.
Frothing so hard when
greens.
I finished it. The whole thing green. I was stoked. That was about it.
That was about
That's my week.
Now that is riveting.
Truly.
Jim Bob?
Mate, I had a very similar week to Freebs. Parked it for pretty much most of the week, just some GE around the place. And then, got on with the boys on Sunday down at Hamo. Like Freebs said, big start list. Everyone was swinging. It was good fun. The Aussies are back.
The Aussies are back.
They are back.
The Aussies are back. And racing's back in Brisbane then. Who what's there not to be excited about?
Exactly.
Well, Sean was like a dog with two.
Yeah.
Did you go from the gun again, Shauno?
Nah.
I think I was the first to go.
Oh,
no, it was Fletcher, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
he's
that doesn't
like,
count.
He's like a dog with two bloody balls or whatever you say.
Two dicks.
He had a good race, man. He really impressed me.
Yeah, he's going to be
for a young kid. He goes well.
This is Phil. This is Jackson Medway's younger brother, who's still in the schools, tearing up the A grade already here. So I think we're in for a couple of hard years of pain.
Exactly.
Nice.
My week, bloody went to Hamo. Legs are slowly coming back,
They
so
are.
they should be in tune in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully. And I just bloody celebrated the Lions' win on Saturday Arvo. So.
We did. We had a good celebration.
So good. So Phil,
And what have you been up to, Phil?
Yeah.
I've got I'm doing a bit of gravel these days. So I've got this event, the Dirty Warnie, coming up. So it's like 250 Ks,
Oh, that's
3,500 metres of
that's
Yeah,
the
3.5.
Legends, isn't it?
the Legends.
Isn't
It's kind
it-
of like the Melbourne Warrnambool, but it's on gravel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, doesn't Tim
Yeah,
Decker do that
so
with
it's
you?
good. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
I've done it, and but it's it's a big day out for me. I've just come back from the States, and I was over there for a couple of months, and I took my bike, and my partner and I were doing a few rides, but they were pretty, they weren't intense and they weren't long, so. I've had to ramp it up a little bit.
What are you trying to say? You're underdone.
I'm underdone, that's right. So I've had to ramp it up. I did the event last year, the Dirty Warnie, and it took me 9 hours and change. I think the winner's time was 7 hours, 7.5 hours. And I think there was a field of, like 500.
Shit.
And I still got like 33rd. I was in the 30s was my overall place. But yeah, I reckon this year, if I could do it in 10 hours, that's 45, 50 minutes longer, I'd be bloody happy. But yeah, to do a big day like that, you just got to, there's no hiding. You got to do miles. You got to do, some intensity, climbing. So this week was sort of my first hard week. And I'm only up to like 120k rides. So possibly done 4 days, so maybe 500 kilometres in this week. Most of it on the gravel. One of them was a reconnaissance for another ride, Gravelista. It's a UCI sort of qualifier for the Worlds or something like that. But it was just a reconnaissance of that. That was near Seymour, and then I've just done a reconnaissance of, like a long reconnaissance ride, another 100 kilometres on the Warney ride, on the Warney course. And yeah, so I just got to, continue, put my shoulder into this and, get some miles up.
Nice one, mate. Still got it.
Oh, I love it. I love riding the gravel. Like, the Otways are a beautiful place to ride. It's part of Victoria. And, it's been some beautiful days riding.
Where's the Dirty Warney start from this year? Is it like in Geelong?
Yeah, it starts just out of Geelong.
Yep. And then
called Mount Moriac, I think it's called.
And then will it go through the high country behind your place?
Yeah, it goes through the hills behind my place. Yep. It's 3,500 metres of vert, so quite a bit of climbing. I think the longest climb those 12 kilometres or something like that.
It's decent.
Yeah, it's possibly a bit like riding around Brizzy, I guess.
What's the weapon of choice, mate?
I ride a Baum, so it's titanium.
Yep.
Nice.
The handmade frame. Decked out with Shimano GRX.
Beautiful.
Beautiful bike. I haven't decided which rubber I'm going to use. Last year, I think I used 40 mil, so I'll possibly stick with that. Some Schwalbe's.
Very nice.
25, 30 pound. But I'll see what the weather's like coming into it. Always got 45s but it's a bit of clay. Not very rocky, but it's. I reckon the roads will be pretty good. A few corrugations and stuff. That kind of distance will be, you're pretty sore at the end of it.
I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're on the path to greatness there, mate. It's good. It's good to see. And
I don't know about that. There's rocks in the head, mate. Just still rattling around.
I think that's just being a cyclist.
Yeah, we're all a bit cooked, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all cooked units.
Yeah.
Anyway, for those we call it playing at home, Phil. Just thought I'd do a more of official opening because you are a very esteemed and decorated rider, and I thought just be worth just noting those achievements just really quickly, just to set the scene. But as many people probably do know, but Phil was the very first non-European to wear the yellow jersey at the Tour de France. He's also a winner of the white jersey at the Tour de France. He's multiple stage winner at the Tour de France, multiple stage winner at the Giro. He's also won a few other tours, such as the Dauphiné, the Tour of Swiss, the Tour of Romandie. A couple of gold medals from the Commonwealth Games, just because you can. And you've won one of my favourite races, the Amstel Gold, which clearly is for the beer. He's pretty much one of the coolest dudes in cycling history, and just a legend bloke of the sport. And great to have you on the show, mate. So thanks very much for being here.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's when back in the the 80s and 90s when I was racing around Europe, I never thought that as a senior citizen people would still be banging on about bloody yellow jersey and all that. But anyway, it's
growing, mate.
It's great to people always ask about it. You rock up to the pub and people say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, retired." And they say, "Oh, they want the story." And tell you, bike rider who used to race. Oh, they just want to hear the bloody stories and back in the day and bloody rattle on. But it's nice. It's good.
Well, hopefully, hopefully we can get to a few of them tonight. So, but
Yes.
mate, as I said, welcome to the potty, and it's your first time on the show, but I'm sure you listened to every episode that we've done so far, mate, and it's good to have you on our potty, and we actually met many years ago, mate, on some charity rides, you and I, with Smiling for Smitty. I can't remember if our first one was Tassie or if it was Christchurch that we did, but we've done 2 or 3, and we did bond over a number of beers and after each race, or each stage, I should say, and
That
probably
checks
one of,
out for you.
yeah, no, it's pretty common. But one of my favourites was when we were down in Tassie at Bamboogle, and you and I and a couple of others, I think Mad Dog and one of the guys, Leachy, decided to sneak up to the pub in Bamboogle from the golf course, and we had to ride about 15 k's after doing about 150 just to get to the pub in this howling headwind, and we were all sitting on the front just taking turns chopping to get to the pub. And then we snuck a couple of beers down and had this massive tailwind to get home, which was thankfully went the right way. And anyway, it was a great day. And it's a fond memory of mine, of ours, Phil, from all those years. But yeah, we did meet doing these Smiling for Smitty charities. You've done many of those.
A lot of fun. I have lots of memories from doing the Smiling for Smitty charity rides through. I think I've done maybe 3 or 4 of them now, but yeah, I remember the one in Tassie and yeah, been fantastic. And the one in New Zealand, of course. Try some of that Kiwi beer.
Spates fight your mates. The old
all comes
Spates.
down to the temperature. Yeah, that's right.
Don't drink that
But
if you're playing at home.
yeah.
Well, mate, to get ready for today, I thought it'd be worth doing a little bit of Googling, and we have done a couple interviews, you and I, before, and I did use this last time, so I'm rehashing something, but only you and I recall this. And on Wikipedia, it's still one of my favourite things, is that they sort of say your age and all that kind of stuff and some of your key achievements, and then they've got nicknames. And your nickname on Wikipedia is obviously Skippy. After your time probably being in Europe, I'm assuming, being the Aussie. But probably my favourite one is Dr. Teeth. And can you help us understand where that comes from?
Dr. Teeth. I don't really know. Obviously, when I'm under pressure, you've seen this, Phoebes, when I'm bloody, I'm
Chewing stem.
trying to follow you, and I'm gasping for air, and I have a
This big grin comes
mouthful of big teeth. That's it. Yeah. So
anyway, we've got.
you see some guys, the podge, he just breathes through his nose, but I just gasp, and so yeah.
Well, we're going to sort out Wikipedia, mate. We've got to get that. We've got to get that sorted and get that removed.
Yeah, I think I've got to change that because I'd never heard of that. I've seen actually like caricatures of me, and it will just say Dr. Teeth under it, and there's this huge bloody
set of chompers,
huge image of me with these bloody teeth. Yeah,
Well, it's always a good start with that one. I enjoy that one a lot. But obviously, we've mentioned before, you and I have spent a lot of time at the pub having a couple of beers because we've bonded over that. And I reckon I might have mentioned to you that we've actually got our own beer these days. The Backside Potty has its own beer.
Yes,
now,
that's right. I've listened to a couple of your shows, and so I do hear the silliness that goes along. It becomes more silly as the evening goes on, as I noticed. But it's good. It's great.
Well, my other question to you so far, Phil, is do you have a Toohey's open by any chance?
I don't have a Toohey's. No. I mean, when I'm home, I normally don't drink during the week. I save for the weekend. So I don't have any Toohey's. I don't have any.
It's a Wednesday night.
I don't have any.
Maybe we
Maybe
can get Phil to do a Backside Potty.
Shout out.
No, jingle.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna.
Too.
Yeah, I thought you'd have a lifetime supply of Tooheys after that little ad they did for you.
I think they gave me a few slabs. That was about it.
Just a few.
Is that it?
And I think it was just the ones they, because we filmed that in Europe, and it was interesting actually. It was like in '85, and I was having a really good year in '85. Back then, the calendar was a little bit different. You could ride both the Dauphiné and the Tour of Switzerland, and in between there was like a week, and that was the week that we did the shoot for the Toohey's dad. And as I said, I was doing, it was a good year, possibly my best year. I'd won the Dauphiné, and then I had this week. I think when I look at the ad, there's a short bit of me getting on a podium, and I think that was a live shot from on the podium during the Tour of Switzerland. So they actually used some live footage, or some real racing footage. Because I went on to win the Tour of Switzerland, the week after doing the ad. So, it was a big, year for me, not just because of the Toohey's ad.
Well, for those playing at home, we are going to play the ad in the episode, and everyone can have a play along at home. But yeah, it was a very cool ad that, and we'll put a link up to it as well for YouTube because it is on YouTube, and everyone can have a bit of a laugh of this pretty classic 80s Phil Anderson just doing a beer ad for Toohey's.
You could swear his legs were pistons as he rides off in the distance. He's up amongst the best the world has seen. He's the pride of all Australia, and though he rides in their regalia, our boy could ride in any country's team. He rewrote cycling history with 17 straight victories, a pedal, pump and power-packed machine. One day he'll make world champion, sure as his name's Anderson, the fastest man who ever rode two wheels. That'd be unreal. How do you feel? Can you imagine how he'd feel at the time? How do you feel? I feel like a Toohey's. I feel like a Toohey's. I feel like a Toohey's or two.
It's very Australian.
They contacted me and wanted to know if I knew, because they wanted to get a little peloton together, if I knew any cyclists, because we filmed it in Switzerland, just near the Italian border, actually very close to where Cadell lives now. And they wanted to know if I had any contacts over there, and I said, no, I don't. I said, I think Stephen Hodge lives there in that area. And he was over there as an amateur racing. And so they contacted Stephen Hodge, and he brought along his clubmates.
Perfect.
And so all the extras, or the people in the film, they were all Hodge's mates from back in the day. So I reckon when Hodgie looks at it, he'll go, "Oh shit!" Like I haven't really looked that close to see if I can see a young Hodgie, but it'd be all his buddies from back in the day.
There you go, Hodgie. And we better do some actual cycling talk because we're doing a lot of beer talk. So I think we'll park the beer. But Phil, I thought maybe take us through how you got into cycling. How did it all happen? I mean, obviously before that you were a note from Wikipedia that you were born in England but moved out to Australia as a young fella.
Yes. Yep. So born in England, just out of London, and my mother was Australian, my father was English. They met and married, and my older sister and I, we were the product of that marriage, which wasn't very long-lasting. So they separated and divorced, and I went with my mother and older sister. We came back to Australia, to Adelaide. And but that was like when I was like 1 year old, very young. Came back to Australia, grew up in a little bit in Adelaide, but mostly in Melbourne. And education in Melbourne. When I was about 16, in sports, I was, I did all sports like football and cricket and basketball and everything else, but I did well in cross-country running, athletics, and I was an okay swimmer, in school sports and things like that. So
You're a
I
multi-sport
was always
athlete.
on the running. Yeah, there you go, all-round athlete. So
Should have been a triathlete, mate.
Yeah.
when I was 16, I was with a mate on our bikes. We just had like 3 speeds, and close to where I was living in Melbourne, in Kew, and we saw a bike race. We'd never seen a bike race before. We were just rolling around, and I asked the guy in the corner, I said, "What's this here?" I mean, I was a 16-year-old, and the guy said, "Oh, this is a bike race. This is a circuit race around they call it a teardrop in Melbourne, and there's road racing, there's track racing, there's BMX. Like, this is the 70s, so there was no mountain biking back then, let alone gravel or anything else like that." And in Melbourne alone, you've possibly got 8 or 10 clubs, and you should find out a bit more. Maybe consider joining, because I was pretty excited watching it, because we were standing on this bottom corner and just watching the riders come into the corner and the lines they were taking. It was pretty exciting to watch as a 16-year-old. So I went down to the local bike shop. They directed me to the Hawthorn Cycling Club, and so I went in there and joined up, and I had to put together a proper racing bike. What did I do? I think I got all this old second-hand stuff, universal brakes and Sagino cranks, and it was a 10-speed. That's five cogs on the back. Nothing really matched or anything like that. It wasn't a fantastic bike or anything, but we put together sort of this Reynolds 531 sort of steel bike, held together with this, I think it was a Cecil Walker bike. And so I started riding with some of the club riders, and then, we went to the first race, and, I had no idea it was a handicap. It might have been 60 kilometres or something like that. And it was everybody in, don't think there are any women, but, young guys like me and younger, and, right through to senior citizens like me, like me now. But I was like the newbie, the young kid, and they sent me off all by myself.
Oh,
I was going to learn a lot.
You're first off.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I was like the first stop, and, I possibly had, 50 riders in the race or something like this. Sort of up behind Melbourne, up in the hills near the Dandenongs. And, I was just riding along. I didn't learn anything because, 5 kilometres from the end, the entire bunch
came flying
came
past.
straight past me, and I got to the finish, and they're all packing up, and I don't think the judge was even standing there when I came in. I think he was putting his stuff in his suitcase, his bag or something, and his clipboard wasn't even in sight. So that was my first race, and it was kind of, I didn't really improve much, until sort of the track season came along. That was a lot better. The Hawthorn Club, which I'd become a member of, they had their own little track, and so at least when you're at the track, people can give you pointers, and you're riding with other riders. So I learned a lot more, and then there's a bit of a shuffle in the club, and a new president in, and the new president was Ted, and he took me under his wing and really took me aside and told me a little bit more about training and helping out with some better equipment, and I'd saved a little bit of money so I could put some money in for a frame, so got a hand-built frame made again down at Cecil Walker, and put together a decent bike, and automatically I started improving, and I managed to, when the bunch came by, I managed to hook in with them and work a little bit with them, and just improved, and I started doing bigger races, and not great results, but it wasn't long. So I was a junior rider. Like, junior was between 16 and 18. and I just slowly improved and got to a time trial, our first time trial. I think it was a Victoria's Junior Time Trial Championship, and I won that by 1 second. And so all of a sudden, that inspired me to keep going. So one result, but I remember I was going in the car, and actually the president of the club, Ted Sanders, his son was Dave Sanders, and Dave Sanders became a VIS coach as when he got older. He was a good rider, but and he got on the AIS, and it's like Gary Sutton, it's like these guys, he's had lots of good riders go through him, but so his dad, we're going to the this time trial in the car, and Ted's saying, "Now, Phil, you've never done a time trial before. The most important thing about doing a time trial is to concentrate. Okay, you're a kid. You're possibly thinking about, girls, about food, about bloody, one day being old enough to drive your car, and this. Forget all that. All you got to do is get the power through your body, through the bike, and on the road. You just got to go fast as you can, and concentrate. Don't let the mind wander, because that's time that's going to be lost." So I really applied myself, and you'd start thinking, and then suddenly, you start focusing and focus. Grasshopper. And so I won by 1 second. So that's fantastic. So that was my first ever time trial, and I won it. And you get little things like that, through.
That's good advice.
Along the path, and it helps, And then I got into the Victorian junior team, went to the Australian Championships. I got second in the nationals on the road race, and then got selected to go over to New Zealand. I went to New Zealand, did the Dulux tour, and that was quite a big tour. And I won it. I won it as an 18-year-old or 17-year-old. This Dulux tour. I don't think Australia had ever won it before.
Wow.
It was pretty big.
And that's
Victoria. Then I got into the Australian team. Went to the Com Games and got a gold medal in Edmonton in '78.
Don't race too far in front.
That was the transition. So I've gone from club, to state. The pathways are so much different now. It's like a totally different sport to what it was back then.
Yeah.
Pros and amateurs were two different classes, like two different entities. There was a what do you call it? The Australian Amateur Federation, and there was the Australian Professional Federation, and then there was like a Masters Masters Federation. It was crazy, and each state has their own version back then. So totally different sport.
But
back then.
Mate, do you have any Masters Championships by any chance?
Never been so lucky, mate. Never been so lucky.
I don't know if you can see this on the back of my chair here, Phil, but maybe I brought one along with me, like from the last weekend down in Adelaide. Lucky enough to jag a couple of Masters Championships last weekend, but doesn't quite parallel the same.
Congratulations, mate.
Thank you, legend. That's
great.
You did skip ahead, mate. The Commonwealth game, I think, does overshadow that one a little bit. The Commonwealth Gold.
I don't know what you're talking about, Freebs.
Yeah.
They're totally comparable.
Yeah, so comparable.
Yeah.
Anyway, but mate.
So I did the Com Games, had a medal in the road race, and when I came back to Australia, one of the guys that was connected to the club, a French bloke by the name of Gerald George, he had a restaurateur in Melbourne. He had a good mate, that was sort of the director of a club in Paris, which is the Athletic Club of Boulogne-Billancourt. So that's an amateur club in Paris. And he said, "Phil, you've done so well, getting the, winning the Com Games. I've got a good mate over there in France as a team, and he'd be pretty keen if you'd be interested to go over there and ride in the club for a season. So
good.
That was 79. So I did the Com Games in 78, and the following year I had this invitation. So that was good. I went over there with intent on, just getting some experience, because in 1980 it was going to be the Olympic Games.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that Russia?
They're going to be in Moscow.
Yeah.
In Moscow. Because, the pathway back then was to, do the Com Games and then try and stay on and do the Olympics. I guess it's the same for many athletes still, in athletics and swimming. Sort of, you got the World Championships and stuff. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity, go over there. So that's why I did. I went over to Europe and lived in Paris. The team, the club provided an apartment, clothing and bikes, and take to the race every weekend, or sometimes during the week too, which was great. It's a bit like a sort of a clubhouse where you lived.
And mate, how was it being a young Aussie, like just thrusting yourself over to Paris in, I don't know, you were like 18, 19, whatever you were. How did that feel? I assume you didn't learn French at school. How did it feel, and how nice were people to you? Or not?
Yeah, it was pretty tough. Well, you had French in school, but I was always the kid at the back of the class looking out the window, not really paying much attention. And you never think you're ever going to use this shite, So who would have thought that I'd have to be going over, be going and living in France, when I'm doing year 12 or something like that. There's no way. So
that's a quick turnaround.
It was a quick turnaround. Like, it was the first time I'd lived out of home. I'd done some short trips and things like that, but I was moving out of home, where mum's always there throwing the stuff in the wash and and cooking and everything like that. And suddenly it's like, it's an initiation by fire.
I think Jim Bob's
like I was there with
Jim
these
Rob's
guys. I remember one of my club mates in the ACV was Robert Miller, who is now Philippa York. That's right. It's one of those things. He's changed his
name.
His gender. But anyway, at that time we were club mates, and I don't think I'd ever. He's a Scotsman, Scottish. I don't think I'd ever met a Scotsman before. And something I found strange about this Scotsman was, you're in a house and people throwing their clothes everywhere. Every time I saw bloody Robert Miller's shorts, they're always like a big skid mark up the bloody up on his chamois. Fuck, mate, don't you clean? He said, "Oh, mate, it comes out real easy." I said, "What do you do?" He said, he goes over to the toilet. He throws a bit of soap on the chamois, and he puts it in the toilet, and then he flushes it. The toilet. He's shaking this pair of shorts, holding it by the bib,
That's terrible.
In the thing, and you sure enough, it came out. It was there's no more skid marks.
Yeah, there's no skid marks, but it's covered in all sorts of bacteria, man. Imagine putting that back on.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my god!
Well, just put them on backwards.
There I was. I used to just give my clothes to mum and come over there, and then I got this Scottish guy showing me how to bloody clean his shorts. But
how good.
Wasn't what I expected.
Well, I was going to ask you, Phil. I was just going to ask you. You must have had some good people in your life give you some advice over the years. One of them's not to do that, I'm assuming. But do you have any particular race tactics or race advice that you got from someone, what to do in a race or how to win a race, or anything that you've got that you'd could pass on some wisdom to some younger listeners?
Oh, look, there's guys you hang on every word, because suddenly, so there was that year when, I rode with that club and I did really well. And by the end of that year, I'd got some offers to turn pro. the turn, the reason I went over there was to get this experience so I could go into the Olympic Games in Moscow. But back then, if you're a professional, you couldn't do the Olympics. Okay, that only changed. Like I think it was in '96. I think in '96 in Atlanta, it was the first Olympic Games when they allowed pros to do it. So if I was going to accept one of these offers to turn pro, I would forfeit any chance to do the Olympics. But when I was over there living surrounded by the sport over there, saw how big it was. It was a lot different than professional racing in Australia. So I didn't know whether I'd ever get an offer like this again. So I, through caution of the wind, signed a pro contract. And so my first season was in 1980, okay, with the French Peugeot team. So it was kind of like that ACBB or that Athletic Club of Boulogne-Billancourt that I was riding for in '79. That was kind of like a feeder team, like a farm team for the Peugeot team. So I signed with them. Didn't really know what to expect. Like I'd ridden a season amongst the amateurs, which are really big fields, like over 200 riders.
Wow.
Distances up to sort of 200 Ks, but mostly sort of, between 100 and 150 Ks. And suddenly you're pro and less riders, up to 200 riders, but not over. Like some of those amateur races, you get 300 guys on the start line.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, you learn heaps. But yeah, so back on my wall in Kew, where I grew up, I had posters of bike riders all over my room, and suddenly I'm bloody riding with these guys, like they're, rubbing shoulders and and one of those riders was Henny Kuiper, and he was a Dutch rider. He won the Olympic Games in, I'd like to say 72, maybe. 72, I think that was in Munich. You remember where there's a bomb? Oh, you guys are all way too young. Anyway, there was a bombing in Munich during the Olympic Games. Anyway, Henny Kuiper got first, and Clyde Sefton got second, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so I did my first big race as a pro, and the Paris-Nice. There are a few smaller races, but Paris-Nice is
a big race.
Was the next level. And my roomie was this guy, Henny Kuiper, and I had him on my poster in the bloody wall back in Melbourne. And so, and so he'd be telling me, I wouldn't know what to expect. And of course, he's Dutch, so he speaks a little bit of English. He had a bit of a stutter actually, which is kind of strange. Like I think he's the only cyclist I've ever met that has a stutter, which is good, when he's trying to tell you something. Sort of trying to put the words into his mouth and strange. But anyway, and he was great. And he'd come out with these pearlers. You asked about tips and things like that. And he said, "Oh, Phil, the races aren't won on the bike; they're won in the bed." I was like, "Oh, weird." And he said, "No. When you finish the race, you've got to get back to the hotel as quick as possible. You get massage, something to eat, get your legs up on the wall." I said, "What?" He said, he showed me, he just lies on your back, facing the bed head, and put your legs up and elevate your legs. I said, "Oh, okay, yeah. If it's cold, make sure you get under the, can't get a cold, make sure the windows are closed, no drafts, the other these things. I don't know. Half the time I think it's superstition rather than giving you any sort of benefit." But,
mate, you gave me some advice a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember. It's actually almost identical to that. So maybe you gave me a bit of that same lesson. But we were over in Buninyong, and the race was about to start, probably about 15 minutes before the race started. You and Annie happened to see me sort of trying to pin a number on it to get organised, and you're like, "What are you doing standing up?" I'm like, "Just getting ready to go to the race start line and whatever." He goes, "Well, get off your feet." You can't be standing up.
Get off your legs.
Yeah, get off your legs. So Phil asks Andy, goes, go over there and get Andrew one of these plastic chairs, and Annie's my partner had to go up and kick this old person off the chair and bring me a chair to get my weight off my legs because it's going to be a hard day on the bike. And I'll never forget that. It was quite funny to save your legs before a race. So there you go, the lesson for everyone there.
Did it work?
No. Well, it probably got me further through the race, let's put it that way. But anyway, that was I remember that one with great enjoyment. So you joined Peugeot 1980, 1981. You do the Olympics. You do the Tour de France. And
yes, my first tour.
You got picked up.
Yeah. So, the first year was okay, like as a learning. I knew I wouldn't be doing the Tour de France. I didn't know if I was going to be doing it this second year. I didn't know if I was ever going to be doing the Tour de France. I was just pretty happy that, I was racing so much. And, because I think the first year still raced like 100 days or something like that. I just loved racing. And then to get paid for it's fantastic, but in 81, I started getting some results. I was like, won a stage in Tour of Corsica and Tour of Sicily. And then we went, I didn't win a stage. I think I got second in the stage in the Paris-Nice and started giving some pretty good results. Then I won some small tours. I won I think it's called the Tour de Haute Var. Anyway, in the south of France, just leading up to the Tour de France. And, I was like the only guy on the team that was winning anything. And so I think they thought that, they couldn't leave me off the team. It's pretty controversial. Because all the teams back then, okay, like now the teams are bigger. Back then the teams were sort of like 18 or 20 riders. And so there's only a small portion of the team are going to do the Tour de France. And the riders are all sort of positioning themselves and doing races, in front of the management of the team, trying to get selected and making a big fuss about the Tour de France. And so, but anyway, because of my results, they put me in the tour team. And so that particular year started down in Nice, south of France, and was going to go in a clockwise direction around France. And this was 81, and that particular year Freddie Martins, the Belgian, I think he won 7 stages.
Wow.
Like he's a sprinter. Okay. So there were quite a few flat stages. Prologue down in Nice, I think I got like 20th or 30th or something like that, which, it was on the first page, but, nobody really knows, so it didn't mean much to me. I mean, I didn't, you got to think I'd never seen a Tour de France. I'd never watched, it wasn't on TV.
No, back in Australia.
The first Tour de France I saw was the one that I was in. So I didn't really know what to expect.
I love that.
I didn't really know what to expect. We had a team time trial on day 5, so it was over in Carcassonne, so sort of near the Spanish border, down the south there, not far from the Mediterranean. And it finished on the track, I remember. And the Peugeot team I was on, we got second. And I believe the rally team, Peter Post's team, and Jan Raas, they got first. So when we started day 6, I'd moved up. It was like the first sort of 8 riders on the general classification were all rally riders, and after that was all Peugeot riders, because the field stayed pretty much together, leading into this team time trial. So day 6 was in the mountains. I had no idea. Like I said, I hadn't. Didn't do reconnaissance, or not myself anyway. Maybe some of the riders had done reconnaissance of the tour route or anything like that, but I didn't know one end of France from the other. So it was going to be a mountaintop finish in ski resort Plateau. I think they had a stage there last year. They still have finishes on that particular stage, and we're going to go over like 4 passes that particular day. So off we go. It's like a 200 kilometre stage, and the mountains are all in the back end. So after like I don't know, 60 Ks, 50, 60 Ks. The pace was building and building and getting faster and faster. I couldn't see any mountains. I was looking up, sitting up straight, looking over the top of all these bloody riders. Couldn't see any mountains. I don't know what they were talking, what the fuss was about. There wasn't any sprint or anything. It's no secret. It might have been a long time ago, 81. We still had an idea of, we were going to be going into the Pyrenees this particular day. And, we used to have little cards you put in your pocket. And I think they still give them little cards for every day. It's got the profile of the stage. You can see where the sprints are, if there's bonifications on the finish line, all that sort of stuff. Carry those in your pocket. So there's no secret it's going to be some mountains, but, riding crazy. So I go to a team, I yell across, sort of question why to one of my teammates across the other side of the bunch. What the fuck is going on here? What's going on? He said, it's only like 20 Ks the first climb. I said, can't see any mountains. Where's this climb? Because I'm looking down there, and he said, no, he points up the sky, and I look up above the clouds, and I could just see these peaks, we're
snow
actually in a valley.
on the top.
It was kind of like foggy here, but you can look through it, and you can see above the clouds, you can see these peaks. So, sure enough, I put my head down, my ass up, and bloody, was out there battling with everybody else. So they got on for a while, and then we go from like a 4-lane bloody major sort of national route into an alleyway, and this is the bottom of the climb.
Yep.
So they're sprinting for that bottom corner, like it's the finish line, guys leading each other out and crashes and bloody, it's just manic. And nothing could prepare for that sort of stuff. Not the kid from bloody Hawthorne anyway. Anyway, bloody, I started this climb. I don't know, the Col Asma, one of these ones, like a 15-kilometre climb. And, for me, the big climb was going up Glenferrie Road, where I live back here in Melbourne. It was horrendous. It just
kept going.
15 kilometres. I just couldn't imagine a hill of 15 kilometres. But anyway, I noticed a lot of riders were letting big gaps go and sort of making my way around, bridging up to
just welding.
Bridging. But by the time we got to the top of that first climb, there's like a little ski station there over the other side. The bunch was like half gone from 200 down to 100. It's not bad, I went down this bloody screaming descent. I'd never done a descent. Never done a climb, let alone descent. And I swear it was bloody, I was aroused, I reckon, going down this bloody hill.
You're
like being on a closed road.
You're popping some threads.
Not much older. I was very excited.
Did you clean your bibs that night?
It would have been messy, mate. Would have been crunchy. But so we get to the bottom, straight up the next climb. I don't know, bloody, one of these other Pyrenees climbs, and the same thing happened. Bloody riders letting groups go, letting
hold the shoe,
gaps go, and I was bridging the whole time. And then I hear my director sportif. This is before radios, of course, so the director sportif sort of pushed his way, past all the riders, came up to me. He goes, feel, well, the instructions were to look after Jean Rene. I was like, oh, shit, that's right, our humble leader, Jean Rene Bernardo.
Good buddy yours.
I say, oh, look, I'm pretty stuffed. Oh, where is he? I'll go and look for him. He said, oh, he's in the next group. He's like 4 or 5 minutes back, You had your instructions. You're meant to stay with him, I said, well, I can ease up. I'll help him on the next climb. He's still got 2 to go. But you stay there. You're the only bloody Ouzo rider left, So you stay there, but you come see me tonight, You come and see me. Didn't sound very good, but anyway. Go to the top of the second climb. Bang. The bloody the group had snapped in half again. So there's only like 50 riders left. Oh, this is pretty good, Down another bloody central bloody descent. Bloody fantastic. Once again, very exciting. And, the penultimate, start of the penultimate climb, through one of these little valley towns and tiny roads, there's bloody, it was crazy. And, once again, the field was getting smaller and smaller. So we finally go down, we get to the finishing climb, bottom of this last climb. It started to clear, and you could see, where we're going to go. I thought, how's the road going to go up there? But anyway, there's only like 20 of us left at this stage, and just about every guy in the front group there I could name because they were on my wall back home. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, cool.
So cool.
Yeah, like older guy, Toohey and like Bernard Thevenet, I think he won it like in 76 or something like that. And right then when I was looking around marveling at these at my company, bang, this guy attacks at the bottom of the in the first kilometre of the climb, and it's Lucien Van Impe, and I think he won the Tour. He was a very good climber, so he was always in the polka dot jersey. He attacked, everybody always. I remember reading about Lucien Van Impe, and they said, he climbed like he's got wings on his ankles, and looking at his ankles as he's going up the road, and there's no wings on his ankles. But anyway, it took off, and and that strung us all out. Anyway, there's a heap of little attacks and things like this, and so in the end, it was just Hino and myself.
Wow,
the kid from bloody Hawthorne, and he was possibly humiliated that there was some unknown, sticking to his wheel, and I tried to slow him down. I thought, if I try and get up beside him a bit and sort of move, not into the barriers, but just put a bit of pressure, sideways pressure on him, maybe he'll slow down a bit. I just made him more angry,
Yeah, right.
And, he attacked a couple of times. I just sort of struggled up and came back to his wheel, and we didn't catch Lucien Van Impe, the Bells, and he won the stage at Plateau, but and Hino beat me for second place, so I got third in the stage, and but because our team did really well in that time trial the day before, we got I got the yellow jersey.
Yeah,
so
cool,
mate. So that was
what a special moment.
Did you still get
rasped
on
the first time
when you got back?
What's that?
Did you still get rasped on?
Did they give you a hard time? The director sportif?
Yeah.
No, they were happy. They were happy for me, but
Jean Pierre or his name?
no, they were happy because it was a good result for them, and so for the next 2 weeks I was pretty much in second, or I lost the jersey the next day. It was a time trial.
Just focus, mate.
It was a short time trial. It was only like 20, 30 Ks. It was in Pau, so a town in the south of France there. Yeah. And it was my first sort of big time trial. We had the prologue, but I remember, you're in the yellow jersey, so I'm in a skin suit, and you're at the top of the bloody ramp, and I thought I was going to make a fool of myself because I'd never ridden down a ramp like that before. It seemed like it was really narrow. I could just see myself just going, front wheel first off the bloody ramp onto the ground, just making a real dork of myself in the yellow jersey.
But you got you got the power of the jersey, didn't you, that day? You still had a pretty good time trial.
That's right. Yeah. So
what's it feel like just to pull that yellow jersey on?
Really, I won that junior time trial championship. I think it was out at Whittlesea or somewhere here, the junior championship, by 1 second. And I thought, I remember bloody Ted's words, you just got to concentrate, it was kind of going through my mind as I was, going down the ramp. And, but I wasn't meant to be thinking of that. All I should be thinking about is not what I should be just, putting the power into the bike. So, I ended up getting third in my first Tour de France time trial. So,
wow.
And they say, people, no, second actually. I got second. No. Yeah, I think I got third.
On the podium.
No, I think I got, on the podium for the time trial. But I slipped to second on GC because Hino, clawed back time. But I was only like, 5 seconds or 10 seconds behind him. So for the next 2 weeks, all the way around France, there I was trying to, get bonification sprints and, get some bit of time back on, So Hino hated it. He hated it, and he still doesn't like me.
Mate,
we see each other every now. And then.
And then on stage 17, mate. Stage 17, you lost. Stage 17, you lost 17 minutes to him.
Yeah, there we go. We would
What'd
have
you
been
do
happy about
Is that
that.
right? It's got a bit tired.
It would have been in the mountains, yeah. So we did, just coming out of the Pyrenees for that time trial, and then we had to go all the way through the north of France and cobbles and into the Alps. But yeah, by the time we got to the Alps, I was softening up, I think.
Oh,
But yeah, so
pretty impressive, mate. That's
yeah.
for a little old
I think the
Aussie.
first tour, I think I finished. Yeah, I think I
10th.
finished 10th in the first tour. Yeah,
And then the year after, 82, you then backed it up and you came 5th. But most importantly that year, I think you held the jersey, 10 days?
Yeah. I had the jersey for a heap of days the following year and won a stage in Aussie. Yeah, that was a good year.
That Phil, did that when you did the second one in 82, were you the ride leader at that for Peugeot then, or were you still second
really.
to Jean? What his name is?
Yeah, I had support because I did 3 tours with Peugeot, and like it'd be so much different today. You just see, there's a sport that a younger rider like Ben O'Connor or and then you look at Goodell, whole teams are built around them. There's no real belief or they couldn't really fathom anybody else than a European winning a Tour de France ever. It was a different era then, and then of course Greg LeMond came out and won the Tour. That was a game changer.
Yeah, because he was the first non-European winner.
Yep, that's right. So, those some great. There'd been some great riders before, Australians, but also other riders coming from South Africa or obviously Sean Kelly. I guess that's Europe.
Yeah.
But
you'll always be the person that was the first ever non-European to wear the yellow jersey, which is quite a feat.
Start a bit of a trend, I guess. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things, like you'd imagine if if Brentford came over here to Australia and started playing Aussie rules and got the Brownlow medal or something like that.
Set the cat amongst the pigeons.
People in France wouldn't believe it, but the sport has become global now, and a lot of that has to do with the telecast or the television. SBS, they changed it for Australia, and suddenly it was, there was never going to be another rider that would get to ride the Tour de France without ever seeing one or without watching it on telly or something. Like now they in the buses they look at blasting your stages stage by stage before they they rock up to the start line. So things have changed awfully. I shouldn't say awfully, they've changed an awful lot. Yeah,
I understand. And it was almost 10 years between your 2 stage victories at the Tour as well. Like, because I think it was 82 and then the next one back in 91.
Yeah, 91. I got had a really good year on the new Motorola team. So it was the 711 team before that.
That's right.
And I'd come across from a smaller team, the TVM, a Dutch mob. I knew it would be sort of not my swan song, but because I was going to go to Italy or I was going to go to the Americans, go with the Motorola team. I think I made a great choice, but I wanted to hit the ground running. So I started training like a month earlier than just about everybody else because it was always like you don't start training until the 1st of January.
Yeah, right.
Which is ridiculous when you think about it. And so, so I think I started training mid-November. And when I went over there, I was going really well, for the 91 season, early on. With new sponsors and, it was just Motorola. It was just a 1-year contract. The actual company Motorola signing with the club or with the foundation. It was only a 1-year contract, so it's important that we get some good results.
They stayed on for a few years, didn't they?
Yeah. They ended up staying until like 96, 97, 96, I think.
Decent amount of time. And
that turned into a pretty big team, didn't it?
Yeah.
Team Motorola.
It sure did.
Yep.
Something else happened in 91 too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Someone rolled up.
Yeah. So, but Lance joined the club or the team. It was in like 92 or 93, and he won the world championship. I think in 93. So 93, yeah. So he joined in 92. Yeah.
How was he?
I remember.
How was he when he rocked up? Typical Yank.
Typical Yank. Typical Texan, I'd say. Look, I saw him in 91 racing on the USCF, so that's like the American national team, like their Olympic team or, like a national team. So they rock up to a race and they're wearing the national jersey. So they're sort of like the AIS team or something like that. Yep. I guess a bit like in the Tour Down Under when you have the
UniSA team.
The Australian team. Yeah. So I'd seen him at the Tour de Pont. Yeah, I nearly said the Trump Tour because before DuPont picked up the sponsorship, it was actually sponsored by Donald Trump. It was called Tour de Trump. It's called Tour de Trump.
Of course it was.
But anyway, I'd seen Lance, a young Lance, like he was still doing triathlons and stuff, and he was sort of putting his foot in the water and cycling and riding in bunches and stuff like that. And I could see he was a pretty strong rider then. He was a sort of outstanding rider then. And then the next thing I know, he signed a contract as still a junior, I think. It was like kind of like and he joined. And I arrived. We're going to have a training camp in Santa Rosa in Northern Cal, and I'm the first to arrive on the bus. And we've got a team bus just sort of looping around, San Francisco Airport, picking up the riders as they fly in. Some guys flying from Italy, some just coming from, Colorado. Guys come from all over, and the bus is just picking us up. And I'm the first one there because I came from Australia. I'm sitting in the back of the bus, jet lag, just feeling like shit. And probably had a couple of too many beers. Remember, it was towards the end of the career. I was just feeling like shit at the back of the bus, and there's this. We stop outside, I don't know, the American Airlines or whatever, and this kid gets on, and he's wearing a bloody hat, and he goes, "Phil Anderson, I can't believe I'm on the team with you. This is fantastic. I'm so excited." And he's he's marching down this bus, like this 40-seater bus, and I'm right at the back, and he's marching down, and I feel like shit, and he's coming up, and he starts rattling off results. As he's walking towards me, he goes, first in the Dauphiné, bloody stages in the Tour de France, yellow jersey, blah, blah, blah. And I go, holy shit, who is this guy? As he gets closer, I go, of course, it's fucking Lance. And so he comes up, and he sits right next to me, like, at the back of the bus is a bench seat.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting sort of in the middle, and he's come right up, and he's right in my face. And he's just banging on about bloody shite, and he's just saying, Phil, it's bloody fantastic. Have you requested to be roomies with anybody else? And I said, no, I hadn't thought that far. And he goes, right, that's it. We're going to be in the same room. He said, I can't believe this. He said, and he said, Phil, I've heard you've had some marital issues, and you're now a single man. Is that right? I said, where'd you read that? He said, my mother, she is in exactly the same boat, and I reckon she's going to be coming to the rest day at the
he's asking you to be his dad.
Santa Rosa. He's going to be staying a night.
Pops.
And, I'd like you to meet her, Phil.
That's great.
He tries to set me up with his mum, the cheeky prick.
Yeah.
But you need to get on Lance Armstrong.
But anyway,
to be like, Lance,
I did
you
meet
tried
her.
to
She's
set me up with your
cool.
mum.
And, But anyway, yeah.
That's pretty funny. And mate,
So,
I mean,
I could see from early on that Lance was going to be a great rider, but certainly not to the caliber of anywhere where he was. He was just like young, energy, new to the sport. Every year we used to do this thing in Philadelphia. It's the national championships, kind of like Buninyong, the American national championships, although everybody could ride. So the first American would be the national champion for the next year. And I remember it would have been in, I don't know, in 93. Yeah, it might have been 93. So before he won the world championship, he was going well, and he'd won two other races leading up to it. So there was $1 million on the line because they call it the Triple Crown. And
Wow.
he won, I think it was like a race in Pittsburgh, a race in North Virginia, the Tour of North Virginia, Pittsburgh. And if you won this race, it was $1 million.
Jesus.
$1 million US on the line. And so, obviously everybody's watching him because there's only one kid that can win only one person that can win this $1 million, and that's him because he'd won these other two races leading into it. So, he wanted to attack. He wanted to do a bloody pog move and attack like 100 k's out. But, it's on a circuit, I don't know, 13 k's or something like that circuit. And on the first lap, he's asking me, Phil, this is the time to attack. I said, no, we spoke about this before. You're going to attack 2 laps to go. That'd be ridiculous. And so every lap, like the very next lap, with 5 laps to go, he's still, no. And and finally it was like 2 laps to go, and we gave him the nod, and you could just see him, just the energy that he had. You just see him, buddy, going up the road. It's a steep bloody hill. The Maniac Wall, it was called. I always thought it was like Maniac Wall, but Maniac Wall was the hill on the circuit. And, he just lit it up, from the bottom. It would have been better if he went halfway up. But, from the bottom, went over it. And I think 2 guys went with him. But, he ended up winning the race and
$1 million.
Getting $1 million, which was good.
That's a fair bit of coin. If you extrapolate out in time value of money, that's a fair bit of cash.
No, it was a lot of money.
Maybe you should have hooked up with his mum.
Really, well, there you go.
Speaking of good-looking roosters, mate. I mean, obviously back in the day, you used to rock a fair old mane, and you were never far off, loving getting some fluoro kind of in your life. It's the era, 80s, and you certainly used to rock some pretty cool sunnies and stuff, mate. Do you still get the fluoros out now, or what's the go?
I don't get them out. Sometimes I go to a theme thing or something like that. I could have worn some tonight.
Yeah.
But this isn't being recorded visually, is it?
No.
I have a rack of bloody leaders jerseys. Like everybody just talks about the Tour de France, but there's so many other races, and I got lots of jerseys from different eras or different tours that I'd been leading and stuff like that. But some paraphernalia like those glasses. And
they're sick.
Of course, there's all the trophies and shit like that. But,
Jim Bob would love a pair of those.
We're going to have to do a live cross from down here, mate. We can.
Well, do you remember at the tour, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we ran into you at the Rafa warehouse, and you'd taken down like 3 suitcases of these woolen jerseys and what are those hats that cycling caps that you used to wear, and you had that's when you told me about this particular day with your old teammate. He was a sprinter. Just trying to think of his name. He was Sean Kelly from Britain, and you had a cap, and you gave him some good advice on that from memory.
Oh yeah. So. It's a story from the Tour de France. It was midway through the tour, and we'd had every morning, we'd have a team meeting in the hotel before we leave. Okay, because we didn't have buses, or we didn't have a bus on the Motorola team, so we'd have a meeting at the team hotel, and we sit around, we talk about strategy, what we're going to plan to do. One of the memos was, a teammate of mine was ill he'd had a dose of the runs, and he's vomiting and stuff at night. And this is midway through the race. It happens. Something he ate, or something didn't quite sit well, and so we were all told to look out for Sean, and it wasn't Sean Kelly, Sean Yates, so an Englishman, and really good rider. In fact, he got the yellow jersey as well in I think it's his last in '94 maybe, but anyway, this was a couple of years before, and he was new to the peloton. Actually, I'm trying to think. Actually, yeah, it was in the Peugeot team, so he was a teammate of mine. We were also teammates in the Motorola team. But yeah, so going back, so we're racing along, and come up to Sean and say, "Sean, how is it, mate?" He goes, "Oh, geez, I don't know, feeling pretty crook, I think I'm going to have to, pull out." I said, "Oh, geez, that's pretty shocking. What is it?" He said, "Oh, just got the runs. Need to stop and have a shite, I said, "Oh," he said, "What should I do? Have you got anything have you got any tips for this?" I said, "Oh,
Wash your
he
beef
said,
in the toilet.
when I was younger and first in the peloton, I remember the guys talking about, somebody that had the shit like this, and it went something like, you got to use a cap and you put it down your shorts." And he goes, "You serious?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You reckon it's going to be like really liquidy?" And he reckons, "Yep." I reckon, okay. So I explained what you do, and I said, "You can have my hat." We always get new hats every day, so it's no big deal. He didn't have his hat, so I said, "Oh, here, Sean, you can take this." And so anyway, I said, "Not now. We're going to wait for a long flat road, or a road where it's slightly downhill, and obviously you only got one hand on the bars because the other one's going to be down your shorts." So he goes over the other side. He's kind of going along the side near the edge of the road, and he's taken this hat of mine and he's put it down in front of his shorts. And I'm looking over, and he's doing it, and he's sort of wandering a little bit his line. I said, "Be careful, mate." And he said, "Yeah." He said, Now what do you do now?" I said, "Well, just, let it rip." And and so you can see his face is all contorted, and as he's pinching one off, and his buddy, I said, he said, "What now?" I said, "Well, if you're finished, just pull it out and try and wipe it with the edge of the the elastic or the peak or whatever. Just try and so you're not too messy down there." And he buddy pulls out this bloody big fucking steamer. This bloody fronted like like he's put some brown pudding in his hat.
And
and he's holding out, and he goes, "What now?" I said, "Just bloody get rid of it. Just toss it." And so he's taken this bloody hat, and he's flung it sort of out the side. And I look over my shoulder, and I see about 50 people bloody reaching for that bloody hat, like doing screamers. Jezelenko to bloody knocking down people to try and get have the first hand on that hat.
oh dear, that's not cool. That's
oh,
hilarious. That doesn't
can
happen
believe
anymore,
it.
surely.
All the other riders are like spreading right out. Give this guy some room.
I should have done. Tom Dumoulin should have done that in the Giro that year.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's quite funny, mate. That's very funny. And getting back to the tour, I remember a story. We were at the Crafers Hotel having a couple of lagers, and then we decided we had a little bit of spare time that we'd zip up to Ashton Hills, the winery, and have a couple of Pinots because you don't mind a Pinot either. And I said, "Leave it with me. I know the place to go. We'll go up to Ashton Hills," and we raced our bikes up there along Tregarthen Road, which has got a couple of big lumps in it. And we proceeded to drink Pinot as fast as we possibly could because Phil only had an hour. So it was like, how many can we get down? And time was
responsible
always. And time was ticking because you had to be down at the Legends dinner in the convention centre in Adelaide to to release your new, a found bike, which I'll let you tell in a second. And anyway, we proceeded to drink a fair bit of Pinot, and then we had to race down Green Hill Road back to where we were staying to get you in time to have a shower and in your penguin suit for the Legends Dinner. But you that night you had to unveil a bike that you reclaimed and rebuilt. Do you want to just quickly share that bike and how that came about?
Yeah, so like I don't know, it must be 10 years ago or maybe like 8 years ago. I had an email, contact through Facebook actually. Just a random email came in, or a message came in, wanting to know if I'd be interested in one of my old bikes. Now, I have a couple of my old steel bikes from when I was racing in the shed. But one bike which I didn't have was a Peugeot. I mean, these bikes are really heavy. They're not. They don't handle like the bikes of today, and they're twice as heavy as the stuff now. But sentimentally, it would be great if I could have a bike from each team that I rode with, and I didn't have a Peugeot. And so this gentleman said that he had one of my bikes in an attic in France, and if I was interested, he wouldn't put it on the market. So sure enough, I negotiated a price, and I was going to be in Belgium, obviously a couple of months later. So I asked him just to put it aside, and I went to pick it up, and I brought it back to Australia. Restored it. It'd been, it had gutter rash on the rims, and it'd been used as a bit of a cruiser, I think. But I got I restored it to its former glory. I didn't get it repainted. I kept the original paint, just touched it up a little bit. And it happened to be one of the bikes that I rode in the Tour de France in '82. So my second Tour de France. So it was pretty cool to be reunited with it. I think it was 12-speed bike. Probably weighed maybe 10 kilos. It was cutting edge back then. All French componentry on it. It was a beautiful bike, presented really well, and it was wonderful. Yeah, so that they were having an exhibition of significant bikes at the Legends Dinner, in the foyer, and so one of my bike was one of the installation, and it was. It showed pretty well. It was nice.
It's pretty cool.
It was great. And I've actually ridden it a few times. I took it around that loop, the Amy's loop. Wednesday ride, I took it out. I think the first time I went out, I think I got a puncture. I had to come back. But then, a couple of weeks later, I went out and did the lap. And, the gears are just so huge back then. Like now we all spin along on, 34, 21s and stuff in the hills, and like you get around, but back then it was I think it was a 42/18 or something like that. It's a small ring is 42.
Wow. Sure, that's got to be on your bike, doesn't it?
Oh geez, going up the hill out of Skeens Creek, it was just like slow motion, just like going
up she went.
I must have been doing like 30 RPM or something up the bloody hill, and that was the smallest gear.
Ultimate street
I got around okay. I think I put clips. I think I put clipless pedals on, but otherwise it was all pretty standard.
And didn't you give it to the person that you were staying at their house or something, like his father or?
Yeah, I guess the director sportif of my French team. He'd call on favours. If the team could. Change at his house, or it was a friend of his, and he gave in exchange for whatever the favour was, he'd give him a bike, he'd give him one of the team bikes, because the riders don't keep the bikes. You can negotiate with your team to keep the bike, or you can buy the bike from the team, at a highly discounted price. But the athletes don't keep their bikes as such. I mean, it might be different now. Back then, you didn't keep your bikes, and so I didn't think I didn't think anything of, wanting to keep a bike. I mean, they're beautiful bikes, but, the next bike you get is going to be better than the one after that, just because of, it's going to be improved, just like the bikes now, they improve every year.
Yeah, getcha. Obviously, you would have had so many other podiums over that sort of 12 or 13 years as a pro. Do you have one race that you remember that you kind of feel like it got away and you really regret the result that you didn't win or whatever might have happened?
Sometimes the win isn't because it's the most important race, or I think in 85 I had a really good year. Then it was that year I got fifth in the Tour de France and Dauphiné and Switzerland and all those big things. But at the end of the year, I came down with an arthritic issue, and it was very hard to diagnose, and nobody knew what it was. And it took me months before I could get it diagnosed and could start treating it. And, I was like number 2 in the world at that stage, and yeah, when you're an athlete, at the peak of your career and something knocks you down like that, and you don't really know what it is, and don't know what your future is, and you sort of question, what's, you question your career and, where you're going to be. So it took me a long time to get it diagnosed, and, possibly like 15 or 20 different doctors and specialists, and you in the end you're changing your diet, there's so many different avenues you go down, but finally I had it diagnosed and got onto a path of treatment for it, and then but the team was pretty pissed off because that it was I'd signed a really healthy contract, one of the biggest ones in history, or, at the time, a huge contract. And then, the press got hold of it that, this bloody superstar of the team is crippled and can't even, get out of bed, but he can't bloody race his bike and, can't perform. And so the team was under pressure to dock my pay and, the sponsors and like that. So it was pretty big. And then, finally I started getting back on the bike again, and I was riding pain-free, and, you could see my condition was coming better and better. And, I missed out on all the classics, which was one of my stronger results was always in the classics, Flanders and stuff. And so then I just, started training up for the tours, did the Tour de France. No great result in the Tour, but, finished in the top 50, I don't know where it was. Then by the end of the year, I came to do the Paris Tours, it's a big one-day race, sort of in autumn, sort of this time of year. I don't know if it's that big anymore, but anyway,
and you won
Paris Tours. And, I went out to, and I won it. And suddenly the team was like all enthusiastic about having me sign another contract, a new deal, stay with the team, And so that victory to me was just so sweet, to come back after adversity. It's pretty tough. Win some other races. I might have won some small races, like some tours and small stages and stuff like that, in Ireland or England or Denmark. Actually, I think I won the Tour of Denmark that year too.
Weapon.
But anyway, it was really good that the team offered me another contract. But of course, the first thing I asked for was all the money back that they docked from earlier in the year.
Yeah, those bastards.
So, but anyway,
tough negotiator, mate.
And the contract that I signed ended up being the last one, was my last. So I signed a new contract, but it's just for one more year. But so there you go. I mean, you win races. Like I won Grand Prix of Zurich. It's on much the same circuit as what we had at the World Championships there.
Ooh.
And I attacked in the 4Ks to go. Like it was considered a classic back then. Yeah, I remember, and it did circuits like what it was. And I'd notice every lap. Sort of the back of the airport, Zurich Airport. Yeah. It was a long winding boulevard, and in the middle there was sort of furniture or sort of a concrete strip, for the two different directions, like an avenue. And I noticed there were gaps in those. And, of course, the whole road's closed. And, sometimes it would be on this side, sometimes it would be on that side. We came around, we're going really wide around this boulevard. And I had a teammate on the wheel, and I waved to him to come past me. And I jumped through one of those gaps in the medium strip and took off, like had some good momentum. And, by the time I was going past the front of the bunch, I was just going so much faster, and just continued to the finish line. And that was the Zurich Grand Prix. That was really sweet because it was just because I was in control and it was cunning, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, nice. A bit like the Pog, mate. He's just next level, isn't he?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful to watch, but it must be frustrating for the other riders. It's just, I think they're all just shaking their heads, wondering how the hell they can beat him. Because he's got a good team too now. So
yeah, he has.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's great to watch. And I was reading a quote from Eddie Merckx, and he reckons that this kid is better than him. And Merckx hasn't said that before.
No.
The way to beat him is do the races he's not entered in. Do all the other ones.
There you go, Jim Bob.
Yes. Yeah.
There's some wisdom for you.
Well, Phil, mate, thank you so much for your time. I know you're retired these days, but but we really appreciate you jumping on and supporting a local podcast up here in Brisbane. And I'm sure there's some pearls of wisdom, but also some amazing stories about your past and a lot of stories that probably not a lot of people know either. So, just looking back at your rap sheet, preparing for tonight, it was just amazing how many results you've actually achieved in your career. So, mate, thank you so much for your time. And, I'll definitely find a way to have a beer or two at the TDU in next year with you.
Yeah, maybe up at Grapers again.
Why not?
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, it's great. And I hope your listeners enjoyed that. And, maybe some of them will be seen with their legs up on the wall, shaking out their legs.
No
or
doubt.
shitting into caskets.
Yeah.
Well, mate, you're a legend, Phil. Thank you so much, mate.
Guys, well, pleasure, mate. We're always a pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap.
I feel like a Tooheys or two.